Hi. My name's Pat Randle and I'm a letterpress printer, and once a year, roughly, before COVID, with my mate Nick Loring, we publish a magazine called Double Dagger, and it's a 16 printed page journal stroke magazine. Really, we print by letterpress, so everything in this magazine has to print from a depth of 0.918 of an inch. And I published this in a world before I met Steve and got introduced to you wonderful poets. So the text is not so much poetry, but I've been picking out some bits, but it's more nerdy typographic detail about how makers and artists and typographers might go about their day-to-day work. So I hope there's a link there with poetry, but we'll see. Really, this is my editorial, and it's a chance to show off the different typefaces that we have in stock, as apart from anything else. And that really instructs the words that I use, because if you can see, you've only got room for maybe 10, 12 characters there, and it really dictates to you what you're able to say in that space. So the wording can become slightly lumpy at times, but anyway, here goes. The stoic printers of issue 3 continue to persist with that most basic human interaction, the collaboration, making no apologies in using a process for reproducing the printed word that is totally antisocial, mostly cost inefficient, and which has by various sane brains.
Please remember, our night opening service starts at 9 p.m. tonight. To remain here at 9 p.m, you must be able to show a valid Kingston University ID card or Kingston University app ID. Please check yourself shortly. Thank you.
Mostly cost inefficient, and which has by various sane brains. I wish that was included in there. I wonder what typeface we could have used there. Being described as a lavish way to squander time. These same printers merrily admit to marvelling at the marriage of the human mind to the setting stick, whilst tolerating only the wholehearted rejection of that work which strides into the broad church of letterpress, having been designed by screen and pressed from plastic. And if, patient reader, you can withstand the combined assaults of set off, show through, the odd typo, and hopefully the very occasional double, then you'll encounter a journey that begins with the Sussex Downs and bravely navigates our aqueous border to revel in the work of the rubber warriors, the centre spread, the brushstrokes and bearing bashes of Leipzig and Utrecht and Brussels. I'm going to move through a couple of the spreads that we've got here. If we've got time. Are we getting chucked out? Is that what that was?
No,
yeah.
Ignore that.
Stand our ground.
Yeah.
This is a friend of ours, Jo Sweeting. She's a stone carver. But in her spare time, she does some lino cuts, and these heads are a result of a project that she worked on. So these heads are actually massive; they're about 70 centimetres wide. So in cases where we're not able to print from lino, we can get a PDF plate, a PDF bit of artwork, and transform it into a magnesium plate, and that's how these were printed. So we can size them exactly down to fit on our plate. I'm going to just quote shortly from what she's described as her working practice. She talks about the stone here. It has no grain as such, and so as opposed to wood, and so it can pluck and shatter under pressure. You have to take it down in drafts or layers when carving by hand. This is slow work, but it does allow time to think. I like to work in a free, open way with the stone. That's not to say that I don't have a plan. I always do, but I like to develop it within the carving process. The tools I use are few and simple. A mallet, a few chisels, and the odd claw tool. Not quite sure what a claw tool is, but it resonated with the way that I like to approach a book or a project with printing. This is our friend Vincent de Boer. He's a calligrapher from Utrecht. And lastly, these guys are called Rainbow, and they are poster designers from Berlin. And that is a lino cut. It's actually two lino cuts. There's the rectangular pattern lino, which I've printed once and then twisted around, print twice in the background, and the black goes over the top. And the black's ages to dry. So it was sort of sitting on top of another layer of ink, which I didn't quite realise how much that would add to the drying time. So yeah, that took a while. And then I'll leave that on the side in case someone wants to have another look. Oh, and we make the envelopes. We print these from a Heidelberg, and you lose a lot of waste sheets, especially when printing this one with the drying times. They start to stick to each other, so we ended up with loads of these waste sheets, which we made into the envelopes for the project. Thank you.